Okay, guys, we are back with semi-final number two, and the first semi-final was a roller coaster of a ride. I am still eventually prevailing there against I am Mabusela, but Mabu lost on time there in this last game where he was actually very close to winning. So crazy stuff over there. Now on to our second semi-final match. We've got I am Kobese versus Ben Hercules, and of course my co-commentator. First time that we see him with the Paradigm Chess 30. Of course, he's the reflections guy we see every Tuesday. Welcome to Dr. Boa. Welcome Ben, and welcome Watu. Welcome everybody.
Thanks, Calvin.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, great to have everybody on the show. So, because we are so delayed on the schedule, I think we are a bit behind. I'm not gonna be talking too much. So any final questions or statements from the players? Are you guys ready to rumble? So just to remind everybody, it's a match of two games. They will be playing. They will be playing. Each guy will be playing with both colors, white and black, of course. And I'm gonna just generate a fresh position over here. So I'm gonna go. I've been using three this time the whole day. So let's continue. One, two. Okay, that one didn't change. Where's my mouse? Two, three. There we have it. That's our position. And Watu's got the white pieces around one. Ben has got the black pieces. If the match is tied at 1-1, then we will go on to tie breaks, what we saw in the previous match as well. So players, you can now mute yourselves. Make sure you don't hear us commentators. And then Watu, you can start whenever you are ready. So good luck, guys. Let's just make sure everybody is muted. And there we go. So yeah, so lots to play for today and tomorrow, London. We just saw Henry qualify for the finals, where Henry will be facing the winner of this match. The winner, of course, of the tournament taking home 6,000 rand, and then second position gets 5,000, third gets 4,000, and the last position, not actually last because we had lots of other players in the previous weekend, but fourth position gets 3,000 rand. Both of these players showed some nice games.
Yep.
Are you familiar with the Dragon Bishops, London?
So yeah, no thanks, Calvin. At the outset of this variant, I was fortunate to play some games with Mr. Lorenzo van Niekerk with us when he was conceptualizing, etc. So very, very interesting stuff. And of course, it means that you've got to just think a bit differently. You
Yes.
know, chess players are trained, and a guy like Watu and Ben would have had 10 to 20,000 hours of chess training.
Yes.
Now, just the introduction of new powers to a normal chess piece, giving it the magical knight and bishop dragon powers, means that you've got to think differently. And that's why it's not so easy, because psychologically we are trained to think in a particular way. And now you've just got to assess a bit more, Calvin. And I think that's something that both of these players are top players. Ben has played at the World Under 16 Chess Olympiads and at the World Youth. And we, of course, know that Watu has played 10 Olympiads and World Cups.
Yeah, these guys have got loads of experience in normal chess, but like you said, it's about gaining experience in this variant over here. And it's almost like Watu also said I mean, it was one of our shows, I think, Reflections, where Watu said, in order to learn new tricks and so on, you need to kind of wire your brain from all over. So you need to do things constantly over and over for many months before really starting to think in that way naturally. So that's the main struggle for the guys in this situation. You might know how the Dragon Bishop moves, but it's still difficult to naturally think in this way. So the
Yeah.
experience is very important, yes, indeed. And
But
yeah,
But I think, Calvin, maybe up until about 15 years ago, the top grandmasters didn't really think much about chess variants. So you never really saw top grandmasters play. And then all of a sudden, there you saw Aronian winning the 960 and then giving it respectability. And then all of a sudden, now you have somebody like Wesley So that also wins. And it's not only a Carlsen dominated thing, there's different players coming to the fore, and those grandmasters have certainly given chess variants a new way of a new lease on life, really. And that is why we can have tournaments like this, because I think people want creativity in chess,
Yes.
and creativity is very, very important. And this position here doesn't allow somebody to just study the book, as it were. You got to have chess understanding, and that is what these type of variants really test you on, that your chess understanding. And if you look at some of the guys from here, this is Watu and Ben. They are players that think quite long, but they think pragmatically. And I mean, Ben played in the 2019 SA Close, so he's aware of the strength of Watu. He has played him, and of course Ben has recently in October 2019, before COVID, Ben won international tournament on the island of Reunion.
Yes,
So
yes. Ben definitely has done quite a few things in the chess scene. I mean, I remember seeing Ben at some SA Open Commonwealth Games where he was holding his own against some GMs as well. So definitely a dangerous guy. And I think that meeting, if I'm not mistaken, I think Ben actually won that game in at the SA Close, the last SA Close against Watu. But of course, Watu has got many victories under his belt as well, surely. So, but yeah, just by the way, to Kasi Chesa in the chat box, the dragon bishops are red because they're not normal bishops. They are dragon bishops. They can move like bishops, but they can also move like knights. There's some limitation to the knight movements. Basically, if you want to know how the dragon bishop can move, besides like a bishop, they go in a straight direction and then diagonally. One straight, one diagonally. For instance, now the dragon bishop on f3, it can't get to e5 because the f4 pawn is in the way. But the dragon bishop on f3 is protecting the d4 pawn because it can go one to the left and one diagonally up to d4. So always a straight movement before a diagonal movement. And that's the limitations. So it can't just jump over pieces like knights in all aspects. So that's why the dragon bishops are red, Kasichesa. And yes, but talking about that, like you said, Lyndon, it's about your feel for the position and so on. But there are a bit more new dynamics in this game. It's very dynamic actually. It's you always looking for the initiative. The side that gets the initiative usually gets going, and it's like a snowball effect sometimes where you can't handle the initiative. So, and by the way, Kasichesa, if you want to hear more about or read more up on this variant and the rules, you can go to our Facebook page, Paradigm Chess 30. Please like, and then there's lots and lots for you to read there. And you can go to my YouTube channel, Calvin Claassen Chess, and see former or previous tournaments. And even there's an introductory video or two there so that you can check out. So lots of information out there, guys. Go check it out. Yeah, what do we have here?
I just wanted to so if you look at the position, Calvin, it's always very interesting. You know,
Yeah.
like you've got this white queen on g1 and the black queen on g8. So both players would Watu, as white, decided to play f4, which means that the queen is activated.
Yes.
And but also an interesting move like pawn to h6 and queen h7. You know, you just controlling the h6, the g5 square, and then your queen comes out on the diagonal. And it reminds me of that famous move of Rubinstein, pawn to a6, queen to b8, and queen to a7.
Yes.
So you know, so you've got to have those that understanding of some of the older games and how some of the interpretation of it, so that when you look at the position, it may look normal or it may look improvised like this one, but you still got to understand that little subtlety you can introduce to the position as well. But it means that you must study that Calvin. You can't just think you can make it all up. Some of the positions you got to try to get as close as possible to those positions.
Yes, indeed. And basically what London is saying here, guys, I mean, chess has got so much creativity available, and it's impossible for us to figure out everything during one or two games. So going through those classical games that he mentioned, like Rubinstein and so on, just browsing through some of these ideas can remind you of certain things during a game. So I think most of the top players that we've had on the show usually advise us to go through classical games, which is a definite way to go. Classical games in the sense of the old world chess champions, like and even Rubinstein in not becoming a world champion, but becoming one of the best on the planet at that point. Guys, I'm just updating the the title here actually, so it should change pretty soon. Copy and paste.
So there's a little exchange happening on e4. So, Calvin, and one doesn't just exchange pieces lightly. Both players would have tried to assess what would happen afterwards. And, I often used to study the books of Dovetsky as well as Polygoyevsky and others. And what they would say is that you mustn't concentrate on the piece that's been exchanged. You must concentrate on the pieces that are remaining.
Aha, very important.
And those are something that's important because you must still be able to cover both your light squares and your dark squares. So when you assess when to exchange, there's a famous book by Gennady Nisus, and he's written 2 excellent books which I have in my library, and that is Exchanging to Win in the Endgame. And you've got to know when to transition, because sometimes the let's call it the lower rated player sometimes wants to exchange everything because he doesn't want the higher rated player to checkmate him. But sometimes you find that the higher rated player's technique is so much more superior to the lower rated player. In this case, obviously, Ben and Watu are both strong competitors. And as I said, Ben has played internationally and has been playing at SA close level already. So it's each one would have a different assessment of a position.
Yes, indeed. And right now, Bungie in the chat box actually recommended Dragon F6 for Watu, just trying to challenge that Dragon on E4. But then they realized White could possibly sack the Dragon on C6 for the knight, and then get a fork in a double attack on the king and the rook. So that should be good for White, yes. So maybe not Dragon to F6. It feels like White has got a bit easier development here. Black might have to play either but H6 and Queen H7 is not possible. Queen F8, Queen E7 maybe, or G6, Queen G7. So Black needs to figure out this. White has the option of long castling even, but I don't know if he will do that. But White, more space. Usually we see that the side with the more space enjoys the easier play, just like in classical chess. So Black to play, Ben needs to figure out some few things.
And I think, Alvin, we already see that Ben is on sort of 9 minutes and 30 seconds and Watu's on 14 minutes. No. So already Ben is slightly under pressure.
Yes.
Already in that regard. And he obviously has to make a decision because he's running out of space.
Yes.
As you said earlier. And, when you run out of space, you sometimes, bit of claustrophobia comes into play.
And those bishops, I mean, they tend to be more like, those dragon bishops tend to be more like normal bishops if they don't get the space. So that's the other thing. Okay.
But what is interesting for me here is that, although we're playing a chess variant, both players are trying to develop their pieces normally, because I'm probably looking at knight d2 or knight g3, and later on the queen may decide to go to f2 or e3. But both players are still following the classical development. Find the best square for your pieces, and before you just make a move. And that is something that the younger players, can note, that you don't just move for move's sake.
Yes.
You actually have to consider what the future movement of that piece is going to be.
Yes.
And that is why both players are giving that exhibition. And obviously, Ben now needs to figure out where to place his pieces.
Exactly.
Bishop d7. So you're going to play the dragon bishop to d7 just to cover c6. What to do on that side, because none of his pieces are in the game yet.
And yeah, I mean, exactly. Besides just figuring out how to develop, one also tends to feel like if you don't get any ideas of how to attack or to gain initiative, you are pretty stuck in this game. So besides the fact that, let's imagine Black just played Dragon E7 and Dragon D7, or get the queen out and castle, you still don't see a way for Black to yet put White under pressure. So Ben is under pressure. Yeah, he finds this interesting move, Knight E7. Still not
Mm.
developing, but he's controlling these d5 and f5 squares. What is his idea about this? Ah, I see. Maybe he wants to play dragon c6. Try to exchange some pieces off, relieve himself of this claustrophobia, so to speak. So maybe
Mm.
dragon c6 is on his mind.
I
I
think
don't know, what should he
I
do? Continue developing.
I think I think Calvin, knowing Watu is always looking for activity,
Yeah.
and I think that is the point about chess. You got to look for activity, but before you got to before you can be active, you also got to build the foundations of your position. So I think Watu is considering castling. He's
Mm-hmm.
considering knight g3, knight d2, and then he will also make a decision. I think later on, either queen f2 or even pawn to g4 to take the f5 square.
Yes.
That's typical Watu style, g4, queen g3. So that you're already taking squares and you're giving the option of the queen to go left or straight down the g file. So it's an interesting one, but obviously lots to consider in the position. But I'm really worried about Ben's queen g8 and rook h8,
Yeah,
Calvin, at this
yeah.
stage.
I think that is a huge problem. Yes, I think in the normal Fisher random games, it's you need to cater for that queen in the corner usually. And so, what's your guess here, Lyndon? Do you think Watu's gonna long castle? Is he gonna give himself? Is he gonna play flexible and first develop the knight and the queen and give himself the options, or what?
No, my view is, knowing Watu for the last 30 years, I think Watu should castle, and he
Yeah,
will probably castle and then decide where to place his knight,
knight.
and then go for an early pawn to d5 type of thing. Open
Okay.
up the position while
Yeah,
the king is in the center.
that makes sense.
He only needs two moves: knight g3 and queen f2, and then the other rook is in the center also. So I think Watu is assessing
And you've called it.
that position.
You've called it Watu has long castled.
Yep,
There you
yep.
go. So so it looks like the players are getting a feel for the position. Looks like you already have a good feel for the players.
Look, I must tell you, Calvin, that I've toured internationally with both Watu and Ben, and we've shared the rooms when we on these international trips. And then, of course, you analyze with him quite a lot. And Calvin, I must actually do a check, but I may have played Watu probably about 15 times in my life in tournament games, because I normally play board one for my chess club Steinitz, and
Mm-hmm.
he plays board one for whichever club he's playing for, and we normally play. I have managed to score about 3 draws, but that's about it
Okay,
with
okay.
Watu.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough against a guy like Watu, but one thing's for sure: when you play him, you always know you're gonna get an exciting game. So
Yes, no, there's no doubt of it. But I think, I've actually, Calvin, I've figured out a guy like Watu. He's actually what those Russian players are. They will fight to the bitter end. He never gives up. And even when I'm winning, which
you're
I
still going.
was in 2 of a game, he's still playing to try to get that draw.
Yeah.
And that is something that I admire about him. And I must just say that similarly to Ben, the first time I played Ben, I lost to him. He played actively. He played a black Sicilian, and before I know it, there the man played Queen A5, Rook C6, and Rook A6.
Okay.
Literally attacking my king on that side. So both players. There's Waters' knight coming,
Yeah,
and the
and
queen will probably move to F2 now.
Ben played pawn to c6, so I don't know if there's something that he didn't like about the position, but I mean, he's looking very cramped right now. Maybe he wants to get the bishop out. Okay, he's getting it out via c7, it seems. He's got this
Yeah,
Caro-Kann structure, and yeah,
Caro-Kann
he's
of
looking very
French.
cramped. Watu quickly plays g3. He's got maybe
Yes.
more something else in mind, not g4. Okay, he has to cover f4, of course, and he's surely going to get his queen next and start looking for pawn breaks. By the way, talking about you playing Ben, I do remember one game as well. You playing him at the closed. There's 1 year,
Yeah.
round one.
2011.
But
2011.
you were slightly in trouble. But then the same thing you mentioned about holding on, and then eventually you actually caught him and you actually won that game. So that is
Yeah.
a very important trait, sticking around
No,
and just forcing your opponent to
was
come up with the goods.
you're right, Calvin. It was a good game. It was a Slav. And what was actually interesting is we were following a old Rubinstein line, sort of knight takes e5, and then white plays knight takes b5, and you
Yeah,
open up.
crazy
Very
stuff.
theoretical, very
I
theoretical.
think
But
Anand and Kramnik also played stuff like that in their world champs.
Yes, and I mean, I was fortunate to catch Ben with a night fork there
Mm-hmm.
in that round. But you know, you if you want to be a top player like these guys, I mean, like Steele, Hercules, Mabusela, you've got to have that tenacity to fight continuously. And then, as Kenny Solomon always used to tell me, when he was growing up before he became a grandmaster, set problems at every move for your opponent. You must give him something to think about. If you don't, then he just has an easy game. So
Yes.
you must set problems. And I mean, Waters G3 was prophylactic here. You
Yeah.
know, he plays pawn to G3 and then Ben plays Bishop C7, but Watu can now play his own move. Maybe Watu would have played Queen F2 later or whatever. But I mean, the key thing now is that the G3 was prophylactic on Watu's side.
Yep. And Kasic says that tactics have increased by 10%. I think tactics have definitely increased in this variant. Bungie was suggesting knight g6 earlier and queen f8 and queen to e7. Yeah, black definitely needs to somehow not untangle but just get out. Watu plays knight to c4 and the knight is lurking around at these dark squares d6, e5. So
Yeah.
one thing that is also important, it's sometimes very difficult to dislodge knights in this game because especially they don't have the bishops usually can capture them, but here the dragon bishops are not interested in capturing them. So the knights enjoy a bit more freedom, like I am David Gluckman mentioned on the show before. He thinks that the knights have actually increased in value. He thinks that the knights are more like 3.5 or 4 points worth because they can also be quite difficult creatures to handle on the board once they establish themselves somewhere. Ben plays dragon to e7 here.
Okay, so he's getting his pieces into the game. I wonder if Ben is considering long castling here, Calvin, with
Maybe
because
that's what he needs to do.
he's got to activate something. Is and I'm sure, as I said earlier, Watu may be thinking of Queen G2 or Queen F2, getting the other rook quickly to E1, because then he's got sort of in theory, a normal setup.
Yeah.
That he can push for.
Yes. Yeah, Queen F2, maybe Rook E1, maybe King B1, Knight E5, and an eventual C4, I guess. Eventual C4.
I think, as you said earlier, sort of at Karukan, that variation where you castle queenside and play pawn to C4 and later on bishop C3, even knight E5. I mean, the dragon bishop won't normally would take on E5.
And you tempt black into playing F6, and then that E6 pawn becomes slightly more weak. You drop back to D3, you go knight C5, and so on. Scariest Name is asking here what happened in the Steele match. So Steele and Mabu played a thriller, guys. Mabu actually won the first game. He actually stopped Steele's run. Steele won the Paradigm Kings tournament. He won the group stages here with full score. And then Mabu came in, the newcomer, and won the first game against Henry with a beautiful queen sack at the end to deliver mate. And then Henry had to grind out the next game in a beautiful, long end game. We saw a dragon and knight versus dragon and knight with 3 pawns versus 2 pawns end game. And Henry eventually converted that end game. And then they went into tie breaks. And yeah, Henry won the tie breaks over there. He won the first tie break game, but then Mabu was winning in the second tie break. We thought we were going to see an Armageddon. But then Mabu lost on time in a winning or close to winning position. So shocker there at the end, but Henry has qualified for the finals, guys. He will be playing the winner of this match tomorrow, and Mabui will be playing the loser of this match for the 4th and 3rd position. So more to come tomorrow as well.
So Calvin, 95 has been played by Watu, and you know, I am Kobese is just slowly building up the pressure. You know, you get they call it in rugby, which is in which South Africa are world champions. They call it scoreboard pressure. Now, in this case, he's just placing his pieces to gain some space because a move like F6 will, of course, leave E6 permanently weak. So the knight on E5 can stand there unimpeded because they know F6 is a very weakening move.
Yes.
So he's tempting Ben, and with that temptation, Ben has to think, you know, probably about 30 seconds whether or not he's going to do that, but at the same time, he goes down to 3 minutes, and Watu is still in a 10-minute zone.
That's a lot of
pressure.
A lot of time pressure.
Interesting tactics here from Watu. Just positional play, that's all he does. But the tactic is actually psychological.
Yep, and
He's
okay.
tempting. He's
Ben
tempting.
has long castle. Watu throws in c4, putting Ben under pressure, taking more space.
Yep.
By the way, welcome to Dolph in the chat. And Scariest Name, you came up with another nice one. The Scariest Name says, oh wow, Henry is no longer stainless steel. So, okay, Henry did get a small stain on his beautiful record there, but I mean, he's through to the finals. He's doing great. And yeah, Ben now played knight to f6. Watu's got all the space and luxury here. Let's see what he's going to do with this position. Is he going to go for something fast? Is he going to try to just slowly nurture and squeeze Ben to death here? Bungie says sack on c6. Coming up.
I think Watu would be considering that sack on c6, Calvin, because, knowing I am Kobese, he doesn't mind to have a risky and a complicated position, because if you look closely, that queen on g1 is eyeing a7 also. So there's a couple of things, and the normal theory of defense and attack says that you must have 3 pieces attacking a king in order to get checkmate. So the bishop on e7, the dragon bishop, is of course defending c6 as well. So it's not that you'll gain 2 pawns for the piece. Yes. You've got to think very carefully.
Yes.
But at the same time, it means that the knight on e5 is well situated. Yes. I think the dragon bishop is going to move.
Yeah, the dragon bishop went back to f2, of course, first securing that the knight doesn't get it. Maybe Bungie says that maybe we can prep it with queen g2 or something like this. We've also noticed that besides the fact that the dragon bishops can be vicious attackers, they can also be quite useful in defense, like you've mentioned, that e7 bishop defending c6. And sometimes you've seen some people make some slips, forgetting about the defensive possibilities from the dragon bishops. But one can just, you know what, I'm a big fan of the Karpov type of style. You know, myself and Watu, we always clash as well with the styles. Watu vicious, I'm more like restrictive, and this looks juicy to me, just to restrict my opponent, because my opponent has got so little space, and a lot of times having nothing to do can also be a big problem for you on the for the player psyche alone. So let's see what Bungie says. Bungie says in PC30 need only 1 piece and dragon to attack. So that's interesting.
Kelvin, I think you're right there on the side with they call it Karpovian maneuvers. But at the same time, you also have this concept of small moves. And if you're going to play restrictively, maybe moves like pawn to g4 to restrict that king side. And then obviously, now you see, if you look closely, that knight on d7 has literally moved all over the board. c6, e7, d5, f6. So he's trying to get rid of that, but at the same time, Watu is still following those classical principles. Don't exchange when your opponent is cramped. So Watu is still following classical principles.
And Bungie has called it here in the chat box. He says knight c6 coming up. And the problem with the knight on d7 for black is that it's restricting the dragon bishop on e7. So now white is threatening dragon takes e7, and he's threatening dragon takes a7 check as well. So Watu has snuffed out something here. He finally sacks just like you predicted, Lyndon. And Bungie also on point here in the chat box. Ben, I mean, if I were Ben, I would probably, I mean, you see it coming, but I mean, it's difficult to stop stuff like this in such a tough position.
Yeah.
So how to play for black now?
And the thing is, when the knight was not on d7, he was indirectly defending.
Yes.
Defending that. But now, of course, this is what Watu was aiming for, because, Calvin, I think it was Kasi Chess or Bungie that was saying you only need a dragon bishop and the queen to attack. But at the same time, the queen g8 and rook h8 is out of the game.
Yes.
So the queen is not part of the defenders. So you have these queen g2 or even pawn to d5 coming up now to open up lines.
Yes.
And even the rook to d3 to b3 is a factor.
Yeah, the only guy that's not really getting close to the black king soon is the rook on h1, but everybody else is ready to participate. And yes, Bungie also saying their d5 break would be quite interesting. Dragon a7 check is available, but why not introduce the other dragon bishop with d5 even? And things are opening up in a very nice way here for white. Of course, white always has this thing, you need to deliver though. You can't give your opponent too much time because you did sacrifice a piece. Banji says after d5, dragon a7 is mate, yes. So black will have to do some serious thinking over there. Scariest name says, is Dr. B gonna add some PC30 games in his reflections? I don't know about that. Maybe you must
Well,
start a whole another branch, but yeah.
yes, yes. No,
And,
it's a good question, Calvin, because I mean we've had play similar to this over the last few years, and maybe it's time that we in South Africa write some of these books on the
possible.
variances
Yes.
as well.
And
But
Paradigm Chess
I
Theory
just
is getting bigger and it's on the international scene on that website that Bungie did give us. So yeah, anything is possible, by the way. And just one last thing, Fisher did say that chess is done. Fisher was like, no, chess is done. It's too much. It's like you said, a lot of times it's predictable, the theory and everything. So something new. I mean, that's why they call it Fisher Random. I think Fisher had also, I don't know if he was the first guy, but this was part of his idea to spice it up and give new creative possibilities for the game. So
mm.
so definitely something to look out for, guys. PC30.
So I think Calvin, obviously, Watu is considering things like that pawn move to d5 and so forth. But what is interesting for me, and that's what I said earlier,
Yeah.
you know, Watu was looking for c6. He was waiting for it. He had the scoreboard pressure and then the positional pressure, and then he went for it. And that is for me what I like to see. I mean, I'll play through the games, and you like to see a flurry of tactics. You know, chess must be exciting. You know, and Kasparov launched his own sort of website type play site this
Yes.
week, and he used the term in his press release, edutainment. And
Okay.
I actually believe in that also. You must have a bit of education and also a bit of entertainment as well, because that's what people want to see.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that one. I've checked that out a bit, what is available, but I don't know if they're gonna still do their big launch or anything. But that's definitely exciting from my point of view. D5 was played, and Ben now decided to play knight b6 to try and block things here. Pawn to d6 is a possibility, but yeah, I don't know if White is ready to give up the rook for dragon, bishop, and a pawn right now. He needs to try to get pieces. Thank you to Karel Skumbi for following, by the way. Welcome to the show. Bungie is saying d6 fork. He would do it anyway. Pawn to d6. Let's say dragon takes d6. Are we going to play a rook takes d6? Takes on d6. It seems like black would be a bit more comfortable over there, getting rid of some pieces. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's still life. The dragon bishops are still on the board, both of them for white. But you want that h1 rook to join soon. So
Yeah, I think Calvin, that is where I mean the experience of somebody like Watu, you know, who's a supreme attacker. You
yeah,
know, I mean, I've been the victim of some of Watu's tactics, and I can tell you,
same
the
here.
assessment is there. There's the tactics, what to do, which one, and sometimes it's a surprising move. You know that's going to come up, but and he doesn't mind complications. You know, and
Yeah.
and that is why in many cases somebody like Watu, he will play for the win, and he doesn't mind if he loses one game, if he can actually score five. You know, it's like the Brazilian soccer team. The Brazilian soccer team will win 7-2. They don't mind if you score a goal or two at the back, but they will go forward with their own attackers. Now, Watu sacrificed a piece, and here he's sitting. He's got to make that call, and Ben has got to find the correct defense.
Yeah, so c5 was played here. Watu is definitely applying pressure here. Bungie also spotting c5, and that's indeed Watu. But what I can say is Ben is also very, very resilient. The guy's gonna force you to come up with the goods. We've seen it in the previous matches as well, and it's just general in chess. The guy always forces you to come up with the goods. So Ben is gonna sit tight. He's gonna find the best defensive moves, and but it's not looking that great right now. c5 is on the board. What can black play? If he plays dragon takes c... Okay, he can't play dragon takes c5. If he plays knight takes d5, what happens after knight takes d5?
Well, Calvin, I wanted to make this point also to the viewers that, you know, if you look at the international record between Korchnoi and Tal, Korchnoi's record versus Tal was 13 wins for Korchnoi and 2 for Tal. So a guy like Korchnoi, supreme defender, Tal, supreme attacker, but sometimes you get into that. What do you do when the immovable is now here
Yes.
against the inevitable,
Yes.
but the immovable just stays?
Yeah, yeah.
And And this is the other side of chess as well, that we need to be good defenders.
Yeah.
We can't only be good attackers. But of course, the defender only needs to make one mistake
Yeah.
and the game is over. The attacker can still lose a move and, do
Yes.
some funny things and then still have the slight initiative. So interesting to see what Ben comes up with in terms of holding.
Ben plays rook takes d5, so the knight on b6 is hanging. But in this way, he's actually making the dragon on c6 hanging as well. So white can play pawn takes b6. Black can play dragon takes c6, but then white can play pawn takes dragon on c7. What to quickly exchanges on e7, queen takes e7. And what's the situation right now? I think we're going to get back to level terms, but Watu will be a pawn up now.
Oh, yes.
And
So,
I kind of like what Ben did here, because now after the exchange on d1, okay, Watu should probably play queen takes, right? And then takes on b6. And what is a pawn? No, what is not a pawn up? It's a level. He doesn't have an e pawn. So after all of this, Ben has found a way to liquidate. His own king is just slightly more open than white's. But wow, this is amazing. Ben has found some nice resources.
yep.
And all of a sudden, things are level. Is Watu going to trade off the dragon bishop? Is he going to play dragon e4 or something like this? If he trades off, this will be an interesting chess position to play. I still somewhat feel like white might be slightly ahead because of that exposed black king. White's king can hide behind these two pawns. Black, on the other hand, is feeling very airy over there. So this is going to be an interesting moment for Watu. Is he going to change into a promising or decent-looking chess position? Or is he going to try to take advantage of the open black king and keep the dragon bishops alive? What are we
Calvin, what did you say about the time? I mean, is time a factor, do you think?
A huge factor. Actually, I just checked it out. Benny's on 28 seconds, Watu's on 6 minutes. So maybe Watu's going to keep the dragon bishops alive, considering that.
Yeah. I think that's the other thing. I was reading a book written by one of the American authors that in Blitz, the chess clock is also a piece.
Yes.
And here, when you're playing these sort of 15, 15, 20, 20 in rapids, the clock is also a piece.
Definitely.
So you got to treat the clock also with respect. And Ben has to find that perfect move every time just to stay in the game.
Yes.
Just to stay in the game. And it's 15-second increment, Calvin. Can you just tell the viewers?
Yes, so it's 15 minutes aside with a 15-second increment. The clock is a bit funny, guys, for when you take, when you make a move, then the 15 seconds only gets onto the clock after your opponent's move is made. So just note on that. By the way, the pieces have been exchanged, but Banshee just mentioned if the dragon bishop on f2 moved away, then black had a fork on e3. Dragon to e3 would be check, and the queen would hang at the same time. So that's why Watu snaps off the dragon bishops. We in a normal chess position. Queen d4, centralizing the queen, hitting b6 and g7. I like the way Watu has played this. Black can play queen c5 check, though, and get into a rook endgame. Is black going to be in time to protect that c5 pawn?
Well, Calvin, in the chat room, Shahid Tobias, who's the chairperson of the UWC Chess Club, he makes the point that Ben had 5 seconds before the liquidations. Perhaps Watu should have kept the pieces on the board. So it's an interesting one, Shahid. I think you got to that's a fair question.
Yes.
Should you have more pieces in order not to simplify? And a good question that we Calvin, maybe we should ask Watu if he had looked at the clocks. Clock position before he made his decision to exchange. It'd be interesting to hear that.
Yeah, we can definitely ask Watu, but I think one of the reasons is because of that fork that Panji mentioned. You would love to keep it on the board, but the problem is that fork is coming on e3. So I don't know if white can maybe play a move with the bishop. It doesn't seem like he has a way out of it, I think. So that's maybe the main reason, tactical reason. I'm sure if Watu had a chance to keep the pieces on the board, he would have chosen that. But still, so Ben plays king b7, solid move. g7 is hanging. I don't think white is allowed to take on g7 yet. Or I just have the feeling. Maybe I'm wrong. Can white take on g7? Rook c8 check, king b1?
What do the viewers think? Calvin?
What do the viewers think? Milky Shake, thank you. Milky Shake has just subscribed, guys. Subscriptions are open. Milky Shake, our second subscriber. Welcome. We're gonna start having some nice events for the subscribers, guys. So keep your eyes and ears open. I think we're gonna start next week with some interesting tournaments. I think one of the ones, I'll give you guys a sneak peek. The one thing that I'm gonna do is we're gonna do some themed tournaments starting soon. Maybe we'll have a lecture on a certain opening early in the week, and then late on during the weekend or so, we will have a themed event where you can test out what we've learned early on in the week. So thanks to Monkey Shake Shake for subscribing, and let's see. Watu on 3 minutes 45 seconds, Ben on 14 seconds. Watu is contemplating take on G7 or get your rook into the game.
So, Calvin, both players showing that they can play. They're not shy to open. They're not shy to defend. And I sometimes wonder if when Ben played 96, if he had forgotten 97, when he had forgotten that interposition of the piece.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think that is part of as you gain more experience, or let's call it practice more in these type of positions, the players who try to avoid those type of exchanges. But I mean, it allows options.
Yes.
That's the key one.
Definitely. And I mean, we've seen that. I mean, this is the whole point of this new variant. Black or not black players struggle. I would say the most tactical missites come from these dragon moves. Sometimes we miss that the dragon can't go straight or jump over something for defensive purposes or for attacking. And I mean, Grandmaster Kenny Solomon last weekend was quite straightforward with his strategy because he was new to the game and he doesn't have as much experience as other players. He was looking at trying to exchange off the dragon bishops just to get into his type of territory, normal chess. And then we've seen other players like Watu and Craig, even guys that have more experience. They try to keep the dragon bishops on for as long as possible because that gives them more possibilities to catch their opponent tactically. So it does take getting used to. Watu, by the way, played Queen E4 check. Ben had to play King B8. Still a bit awkward for Ben. Again, the question is, can Watu snatch that pawn off on H7? He's covering the C2 square. Instead, he goes A3. He first secures that. So very logical from Watu in the last couple of moves.
But I think this is the thing with the top players, Calvin, that I've noticed is that they're not immediately going to run after pawns. They would always solidify their own position because they can always go pawn hunting or pawn capturing at a later stage. But the security of their own king is paramount, and that is sometimes the difference between the top player and a club player, where you see a pawn, you go for it, but then you allow some complications. Whereas the top players, they just don't allow that complication.
Exactly, and also piece development. So we saw Watu could have grabbed the pawn on G7. Instead, he included his last piece, the rook, into the game. So definitely the case. They don't just run after every dangled carrot, so to speak. So So Ben now finally defends his pawns with G6. And he's not going to make it easy here. Material is technically still even. So Ben is saying, why should I be worse here? Okay, let's see. What should be the plan here? Obviously, White is more comfortable because his king is more secure. What should be the plan here for White if he has any wishes to try to push? For now, it seems like, I'm just thinking King A2, and then Queen C4 check. The exchange of queens, I don't think is a huge relief for black because you could play a rook D7. And then if you play rook C7 and you exchange off rooks, if king pawn in game, first of all, looks very favorable for white because of the outside pass pawn possibilities. So always considering who the exchanges, who does it favor. It seems like white has a lot of positives to that. So he can get away with a few moves. Watu centralizes his piece, rook D4, I like that. So possibly rook b4 is an idea. Possibly queen d3, trying to double up on the d file. I like that move. Okay, and Ben plays queen to c6. He's offering a trade of queens. I'm not too sure here. Can Ben go into this king pawn in game, London? Queen takes queen, rook takes rook d7.
Queen takes queen, rook d7.
And rook c7? Is that endgame just lost, or can black still hope to?
I think that endgame is lost, Calvin, because surely the king can go to d4, d4, e4 very quickly.
Yeah, I think that is not a good decision by Ben. I think if you look at it from a dynamic point of view, white is just gonna get what he wants And the only way for black to stop this is by exchanging, and the outside pass pawn possibility for white seems to just give him a winning endgame.
That
Ben, of
is,
course, is down
yeah,
on the clock though.
yeah. No, I mean, I think I am Kobese should exchange as quickly as possible, and then that outside passport is always going to be a factor. B3, A4, and stuff.
He goes queen d3. It doesn't change. So maybe there was something that Watu was not completely happy with. Surely, if you have more time, you can. But this is a practical decision by Watu. Ben is on 5 seconds. And why risk thinking is this win or draw where you can keep the heavy pieces on the board? Black's king is still very uncomfortable. Rook d7 may be an idea. But on the other hand, if Watu doesn't convert here, you might look back and think maybe that was a critical moment for him to comfortably convert.
But you know, Calvin, there's this, sometimes you've got to make a decision on a critical moment, you know, within 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And but sometimes, you know, Polygoevsky has written the book as well as Dovetsky on the critical moment, and even Dorfman, you know, Dorfman's critical moment, and all of them talk about you've got to take your time, even if it's a minute or two in these type of things, to determine who will have the plus sign in the final assessment.
Yes.
And I think Watu, as you said correctly, probably kick himself afterwards if he loses to say that
or
he
even draws. Yeah. So
draws, yeah.
So rook d6. So the b6 pawn is under pressure. Ben goes queen c5. Yeah, Ben is not making it easier for Watu.
But it looks like Watu wants to win with a direct attack.
Yeah, he wants to do that. He wants to keep the pressure. He doesn't want to get into an endgame where there's maybe a small hope for him missing something, even though that other one did look promising. But we can have a look at that endgame or discuss it a bit later with Watu then. So anyway,
Shouldn't Watu play queen d4 now? That forces the exchange of queens because b6 is under pressure. But it seems Watu's strategy is not to exchange queens.
Yeah, because I mean the other version would have been more favorable, and now to play queen d4 would be a bit of a. I think black can exchange and maybe go rook c7 or something like that. Even though that still doesn't look too great, but king b7 played.
Yeah.
This is not so clear anymore. This is not so clear. I think Ben is actually now very much in the game. Still slightly worse, but very much in the game, I think. And Watu has gone down now. The time is actually even. The time is actually equal. So queen g2 check. And what to do here?
So the question, Calvin, that you know, I don't know if you recall, but some chess players try to find the perfect move. Others try to find the most pragmatic move.
Exactly.
You know, so that's really what you've got here. You've got to make a decision. Are you being pragmatic? Are you going to go practical? Because that's something else Donovan van der Neefe, SA Close Champion 2013, taught me. Are you a practical player? Are you a pragmatic player? Or do you want to find the perfect move which will eat up all your time?
Yes.
These are the questions that both players have to answer very, very quickly.
Yes, and it's not clear anymore here. I think the players might get to a draw here because with these heavy pieces on the board, if you push too much, if you press too hard, it could backfire. And it's not clear how white can improve or press so much anymore. Black's main weakness being the f7 pawn, it's covered, and his king, of course. But the heavy pieces are guarding both. So not sure. Yeah, I think Watu might be frustrated. I think he would be frustrated after this if it ends up in a draw. Ben, excellent job. We've mentioned how tenacious he is. I think Ben has done an excellent job considering how the game started off.
Yeah. Watu's just boxing a bit. Watu very famous for his rope-a-dope strategy, just seeing where you want to go, what you're going to do, and then pounces as soon as you make. So that rope-a-dope Ben is happy to just sit and play rook c7, rook c8, and telling Watu, show me what you got.
Yes, indeed. And I'm quite curious to see what Watu can come up with here. Ben clearly is ready to take the draw. He's moving up and down, king b8, king b7. Is there anything left from this position that... he's hinting at rook a4, I think. And this is what Watu is good at. Even if the engine says equal, he will start to, even if it's threatening a threat, just plant something in the brain that there might be danger to
Look,
make
I
you
think
think a bit
Calvin,
longer.
what is subscribed there to Mr. Namzovich, the threat is worse than the execution. So,
Exactly.
Water will give you something to think about just to eat up some of your seconds.
Yes, queen c6 played by Ben, stopping rook a4. And white
Yep.
should also watch out for queen d5 sometimes if the rook moves from the file. So queen to b3 played.
Yeah. Just taking the light squares under control.
And you would like to play a move like rook d7 for black, but then white will maybe respond with rook c4. And this is what Ben plays. He plays rook d7. Can white not maybe just play rook c4? Or is queen d5 coming with an eventual exchange of pieces? Watu has just played pawn to a4. After rook d7, Watu played rook b4. He didn't want to trade. And then rook d6 covering b6. And Watu went a4. Watu is trying to use everything. That extra a pawn on the side. He's really trying to press here. Thanks, Carrier's name, by the way. Rook d5 by Ben, just covering the a5 square and the a5 push.
Calvin, I've seen Water do this with his rook pawns in many a game where even if there's nothing left, he'll use his last unit of infantry to try to
Yes.
open up a position.
Yes.
That's what he does. He sends the guy in fighting there just to make things a bit heated.
Yes. And Ben replies now with the rook c5. He would like to exchange. What to do here?
Yeah.
Finally, what to exchanges? Queen takes c5. We will see, and a queen endgame. I don't think this is practical to win anymore. I think okay, queen d3. Maybe Ben should just watch out. He should not play queen d5 check. That might be trying to force a situation.
Yeah.
So Ben, very experienced. He doesn't go for that.
Very experienced. And then, of course, queen g1 will also be attacking there. But, of course, queen d7 would be picking up the a7. And Ben just plays practically.
Yep.
Queen c6, holding, no checks allowed.
King a3 played. Can black play queen c5 check? And maybe if b4, queen c1 check. But then king a2, and then there's no more checks. So maybe not so easy. Scariest name mentioning here in the chat box. Watu had a whole lecture on rook pawns in the coach's training. Interesting one there, Scariest name. So Watu definitely has some ideas there if he's doing lectures on side pawns. So queen c5 played by Ben. He's tempting white to push the pawn forward just to open up the gates. Of course, black wants to start checking at some point. The d7 square is to be guarded. So are we going to see queen c6 back? Goes queen c1 first. King will go to king goes to b3. Okay, still no checks. And now we need to cover the d7 square for black.
So he's going to go back to c6.
Can black afford to play king c7, or is that asking for too much?
King c7, queen c4 check, and then the king is active.
Oh, okay, yeah. You don't want that king pawn in game again. You don't want that king pawn in game. So that's maybe the other danger. White, black doesn't want to exchange queens.
Yeah. And White has activated that outside pawn in that a4 b4. So
at some point you could see a5. White has some tricks there. He has a5, sometimes b5 to get the c6 square. And he's hovering over a5. Is it ready for that? Ben gives us a small little twitch over there thinking, is this right? Maybe a bit early. I don't know if it was possible for white to first play a3 and g4. Is that just creating more weaknesses to hold on to? I don't know. But it feels more like a draw.
This is now, one of those games where Watu showing a will to win. And he's going for it. Because some players would have just been tempted to draw.
To take the draw,
Watu has shown that he's averse to drawing. He doesn't like these drawing maneuvers.
So let's see now. There's still no checks on the board for black. That's the thing. There's no checks on the board.
Unless he goes to d5, there isn't a real check that would be good for him. And Watu will play king b4. He probably would play king b4 at some stage.
Queen to g2 is on the board.
Okay.
I don't
But now is queen
know. I
b5
don't know
check
if
possible?
yeah, queen b5 check is possible, and he goes for it. Where
Yeah.
should the king go? This is a crucial moment now. c8
Because
or a8?
yeah, because Walter was going to play pawn to a6 and then create mating threats on b7 and simply move his king on the dark squares to c5, g6, e7.
And
Down there in
oh,
the
oh no, everything is dropping here. He's got queen e8 check. f7 is dropping.
he
Ooh.
picks up. He picks it up. Ben was not supposed to move his queen away from that sector.
Yeah, that was a bit silly by Ben to move his queen out to that side, like you said. That didn't make
Yeah.
any sense. But now the question is, Water should probably not take on g6 now, because the black queen is gonna harass the white king.
No, he
Still,
should go queen f8. He should go queen
yeah,
f8
queen
and then
f8
go
play.
back to the queen side again.
Exactly. So it's still not so clear cut. White is of course
Yeah,
close to
there's
winning,
queen f8.
but White still needs to watch out. His king is very open. That's the problem for White. Even though he's ahead, he needs to slowly nurture and watch out for all of these checks coming.
But I've got a lot of faith in the technique of I am Kobese. This surely must be a win there. The queen cuts off the king from those three c8, b8, and a8, and then that a pawn must simply march now.
Ben takes on h2. He says he's gonna take on g3 check. And is the pawn just marching through, or is White gonna end up getting perpetual checked? I'm not too convinced here yet. I'm not too convinced. Check on
Okay.
d4. King can go to
Yeah.
c8, I think. King can go back to c8. I'm not too convinced yet here.
Okay. Well, you can't say there isn't action, Calvin, on both sides of the board.
Because you know what, maybe I'm talking from a bit of experience as well. I had this game against Joseph Moale. You've seen Joseph, he's played a lot of tournaments here on my show as well. And this one event, I think it was in PE, I was up so long and he was just holding on like Ben, and I was a pawn up in a queen and king endgame. And then I was 2 pawns up and I thought I'm just winning, and then I managed to stuff it up. So this is the risk with the queen pawn and queen endgames. There's still a lot of perpetual checks and stuff you need to watch out for. Sure, White is probably winning, but still, I mean, Black got his pawn back. White still needs to push that a pawn 1, 2, 3 times. He needs 3 tempi, and the problem is Black still has time to find ways to harass the White king on this open board. So the White king will never find a safe.
But now with queen d3 check, Calvin, he covers he covers there he covers g3, and then of course king b4 is possible also. Eh?
I don't like this move by Ben. I like the way Watu's playing it. Like you said, the queen on d3 covers g3 and supports, but h4 by Ben. I thought he needed to bring his queen back.
Look, he's trying to liquidate and just move and give himself chances. So, it's a practical decision by Ben. But of course,
but a7.
I mean,
a7 now.
Watu's going for it.
I think now Watu has got it. I think that was a misstep by Ben. I think he should have tried to get the queen back at least.
Yeah.
a7. What does Black play against a7?
You must probably go queen g2 or something like that to try
to. There's no checks on the board for both sides.
But why can't you just take on h4 then and then give the move to Black?
Oh, you mean White plays gh now?
No, I mean queen g2, and then you take the h4 pawn after that.
And then queen b7 check picks up the a pawn.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the tricks that I'm talking about. There's so much tricks in this. It's never easy with I personally, London, 2 endgames I hate is queen endgames and knight endgames.
Yeah.
There's so much drama and tactics. One could be thinking you're completely winning, and the next moment there's tactics on the board. So that's the difficulty about this situation. And by the way, that's the beauty of this paradigm chess 30, guys. There's still lots of chess in it. If you love chess, you'll definitely find some chess play here as well. So King Ulster mentioned pawn to f4. Welcome, King Ulster. Or did you mean f5 maybe? But a7 and queen g2 on the board. Black threatening queen b7 check. How is Watu gonna handle this? I think Ben has actually done quite well here. With that queen b7 on the board, I don't see how Watu is gonna. If he protects a7 somehow, then queen g3 check. Can white just give up everything on the king side and try to queen? Scare's name says f pawn hangs after taking h pawn. Yeah, that as well. King also says queen and pawn endgame. So much room for success and major disaster, definitely. Okay, here comes an interesting one. Watu goes queen d4, protecting a7. Also opening up the going for g7 check potentially. G3 is hanging with check. Ben can go ahead in material for the first time in the game. But it's so risky that a7 pawn is ready to queen. So
Yeah.
what do we do?
And in some lines is queen b4 check and queen b8. So that line also there that Watu has opened for himself with queen d4. So we mustn't forget that. And then obviously queen b7, you have that little check on g7 that will pick up the queen. But Ben has some decisions to make, but it's not so easy.
I like this move hg by Ben. He just played hg. So queen c7, you have to go king d6. You have to go king d6 now. You can't go into the back rank, like you said. So king d6. Is there a tactic here for Watu? King d6. Is there something here? And that g pawn for black is still becoming dangerous. Whoa, it's Ben to play. Ben has got 3 seconds. Move! Ben loses on time. Wow.
He can't. But queen f8 check was coming, Calvin.
Oh, I see. Queen f8 and queen. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That was coming.
The trick there. Okay, so let's get the players back onto Zoom. Wow. I mean, Ben, can you hear us? Watu, can you hear us as well? Guys, can you hear us?
Yeah, Watu, you're still on mute. Watu is still on mute.
Can you guys just unmute? I just want to say the game here. London, if they can hear us, you can just ask them maybe a question or so. I'm just going to say
Ben, any thoughts? Yeah, Watu, Ben, any thoughts?
Ben, can you hear us? Just make sure Ben had some audio
Tough game
last time.
Tough game, Watu, and some fighting chess exhibited by yourself, and of course Ben defending there, but Ben, your space at the beginning of the game a problem.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
we
can hear
you.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I thought the opening was terrible. Obviously I saw that sack. It's like begging to be played.
Yeah.
And I'm quite sure that it's winning. I think Watu just rushed a little bit there. When he went into that ending. And obviously that ending I shouldn't I don't think I should lose that, but okay.
Yeah, tough one. Watu, you pushed. I mean, you had a slight advantage with that outside pass pawn, but you kept on pushing, Watu. I mean, that's your style, never to give up.
Watu. There's Watu.
Yeah. Well, basically, I mean, in that end game, I should go rook d7. I should, when I get the chance. There was a chance I could swap and play rook d7.
Yes, that's the main question.
Then he should play rook d7, and I knew that this should offer good chances. But he's got 30 seconds, and I thought if I keep the queens on the board, I make it more difficult. And then I realized as I was playing that actually it was not the right decision.
Yeah.
And I could have regretted that easily. But lucky for me, somehow it worked. Yeah.
Yeah, but good fighting defensive technique, Ben. So I mean, you still pushed queen g2, h4, giving you chances.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think that queen ending's more difficult. I think what Watu was saying with rook d7, I also thought that was very dangerous for me.
Yeah.
I just thought he's got like good pressure, and it looks winning to me. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, you seemed winning that king board endgame, but I mean, this is it's a practical decision you need to make. So, but yeah, it was a very entertaining game. Ben displaying a lot of good defensive resources. Watu eventually coming out on top, guys.